You're listening to a podcast appearing on the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network.
This is the weekly Firecast, episode 27, interview with Johnny McLaughlin of Heartbreaking Dawns.
Strap yourselves in. It's time for the weekly Firecast. This is the podcast for all foodies, those who love food that is cooked over a fire or feels like fire in your mouth. If you love spice, smoke, sauce, and all things savory, this is the show for you. And now, here's your host, Chilehead and barbecuer, Scott Roberts.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome to episode 27 of the Firecast. As I've mentioned in the past couple installments of this podcast, I'm in the process of introducing some new segments. One is the Foodie Tip of the Week, which I introduced last week. Now, there is one debuting that I'm very proud of this week, and it is called Ken's Fiery World. So what I'm going to be doing very frequently is to talk to Chilehead blogger and reviewer Ken Alexander. Now, his website can be found at fieryworld.com, and you may have seen his stuff. He does video reviews for iloveitspicy.com. He's done written reviews for hotsaucedaily.com. Now, he has a very knowledgeable approach, so in the coming weeks, I'm going to ask him just to tell me what's on his mind. And for several minutes on the podcast, he's going to be given free rein to talk about whatever he likes. It could be product reviews. It could be stuff that he's cooked in the kitchen, grilled, put on the smoker lately. It could be his outlook on the whole fiery foods business. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he has to say, and his first installment is later in this podcast episode. And the review of the week, this episode, is going to be Bonely Tadpole's Bonely's Original Gourmet Hot Sauce. And for the main event, the Fire Talkers interview, I'm going to be chatting with none other than Johnny McLaughlin of Heartbreaking Dawns. Now, Johnny has been a rising superstar in the fiery foods world. Now, personally, over the past couple of years, I've given him and his company, Heartbreaking Dawns, some very big awards, including Best New Manufacturer, Product of the Year, Sauce of the Year. So just do a search on my website, scottrobertsweb.com, for my best of, I believe it's the years 2010, 2011, and last year, 2012. Now, Johnny started Heartbreaking Dawns about 4 years ago with his partner, Nicole, whom he married just a couple years ago, and have created just an outstanding line of sauces, some trail preserves, seasonings, and he's even introduced a line of sodas, and he calls his little offshoot soda company the 1776 Soda Company. So just about everything that I've had from Johnny has been a big thumbs up from me. Now, to me, he's one of the big flavor geniuses out there, one of the people to look for when it comes to slightly off-kilter taste. And Johnny is just one of those people who may not be formally trained in any culinary school, but he has such an incredible imagination. He's able to pick out sometimes very exotic ingredients, and I like to use the word off-kilter, just kind of out of the ordinary ingredients and putting stuff like that into his products. And he has such a clever mind at doing things like that it actually earned him a spot on the Food Network's Chopped. Of course, he didn't win the whole thing, but even on the show, he displayed quite an incredible imagination when it came to off-the-cuff cooking. Now, of course, when he gets in the kitchen and he's got time, he's able to push out so many great products. He's garnered so many fans in the Chilehead world, and I include myself among them. A few of his sauces rank in my top 10, top 20 favorite hot sauces of all time. So he does have some outstanding products. Not only that, Johnny and his wife Nicole are some of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. They've done a phenomenal job of marketing themselves and their company. And even when I first met them in early 2010, I was the first reviewer to review the Heartbreaking Dawns sauces, and I met them at the Fiery Food Show out in Albuquerque then. And even then, I knew there was something special about them. I knew that they were a company to watch, and they have not disappointed over the past few years. But anyway, Johnny is someone I actually interviewed for the first time, I guess a formal, phone interview about a year or two ago. And because of, hard drive crashes and whatnot, unfortunately that interview was wiped out So right before the recent North Market show that took place in Columbus, Ohio a couple weeks ago, I talked with Johnny over the phone, and we talked about his products. We talked about all kinds of things. It actually turned out to be the longest interview I've ever done for the weekly Firecast podcast. So there's very little of it I'm going to edit out. I just want to put the whole thing up for everyone to listen to. No doubt that this episode 27, is going to be the longest running episode of the weekly Firecast to date. But you know what? When you have a great guest like Johnny with some great information, I'm sure you won't mind. The interview will fly by for you, and it was a lot of fun doing it too. Anyway, that's what I have in store for everyone within the next several minutes of the podcast. And before we get to all those segments, I just want to quickly mention that the weekly Firecast is a proud part of the Two Guys Talking podcast network. There is an incredible array of podcasts. A lot of them are entertainment-based. In addition to the weekly Firecast, I'm the co-host of a couple podcasts on there. One is for the Fox show, The Following, which we go week by week during the debut season that's going on right now, and talk about each episode, both the goods and the bads. And another is for the hit Showtime show Dexter. Yes, the show that's about the serial killer of killers. And we're actually going to be starting that podcast back up in June when the 8th and final season arrives. So be on the lookout for that. Those and many other great podcasts are available for listening right now at the numeral 2guystalking.com. So while you're over there and hitting the subscription link for the weekly Firecast, be sure to take a look and see what else interests you. So anyway, without further ado, here are the weekly segments.
And now, the Foodie Tip of the Week.
The Foodie Tip of this week is an extremely simple one, maybe a little too simplistic for a lot of you, but you know what? I'm going to give it to you nonetheless. And the tip I have for you all is to shred your own cheese as opposed to buying pre-shredded. Now, I know in a pinch having pre-shredded cheddar cheese, some Mexican-style blend, mozzarella, whatever kind. It's really convenient to have when you just want to sprinkle it on some pizza, some Mexican, some Italian dishes. But if you do just a little bit of simple math in a grocery store, you'll see that a lot of the shredded cheese bags contain 8 ounces of cheese. But then just look a couple feet over in the dairy section and you'll see the blocks of cheese. A lot of those are 8 ounces as well. And you'll often find them for the same price, so there's no price advantage either way. But what you'll get is a flavor and texture advantage. Shredding your own cheese off of the block for each meal allows you to have cheese that's fresher, softer, and just plain butter looking than the cheese that looks all dried out and thin and I don't want to say hard as a rock, but there is a slight texture difference. So if you're a big cheese lover like me, always have a couple blocks on hand in your refrigerator, some mozzarella, pepper jack, cheddar, whatever it is that you love. And if you don't have a cheese grater, what are you waiting for? Invest several dollars in a good one that'll last you for years, and you'll have softer, fresher, better cheese on hand for your dishes.
And now, the review of the week.
The review subject this week is Bone Lee's Original Gourmet Hot Sauce. Now, this particular sauce comes from a gentleman who calls himself Bone Lee Tadpole, based out of Wilton Manors, Florida. And if you pay close attention to any of the Chileheads groups on Facebook, you might have seen it before. But several months ago, he submitted some of his sauce to me to review and to taste, and for me to kind of give him my opinion on it. And I do have to preemptively say that this sauce has chili pepper extract. Now, normally, I think it makes sauces taste like crap. 98-99% of all hot sauces with chili pepper extract have an absolutely foul, chemical-like taste. This, thankfully, does not. Now, the full ingredients list is cayenne peppers, vinegar, spices, chili extract, and xanthan gum. Now, the consistency of the sauce is a pretty runny one. It's not completely water-like like Tabasco is. It's a touch thicker. Think of like a Cholula. It's got a slightly deeper red color. There's little flakes of ingredients in there, including little white ones, black ones. So it could have a tiny bit of garlic, a tiny bit of black pepper from the looks of it. It smells and tastes pretty tangy. So there is a large performance from the vinegar. It is a very vinegary sauce. And strangely enough, it has this kind of smooth, almost sweet back end. Almost not unlike honey. Now, there's a few sauce makers that have used honey quite a bit in their products. One that immediately comes to mind is Zane and Zach's World Famous Honey Company. And this one is ever so slightly reminiscent of that. But I don't see honey in the ingredients list, nor does it really smack of something that has the full, rich, distinctive taste of honey. It's just kind of vaguely there on the back end. It's a good, peppery, tangy, tart sauce. It's a fairly good replacement for your standard Louisiana-style table sauces. It's a little bit different. And one thing I do have to add is that this is very good on wings. Mix it just with a little bit of butter. Have this be the dominant ingredient in some homemade buffalo wing sauce. And it does a pretty good job. Now, the extract is evident by the taste, but you know what? It is not overpowering. It is there just to give a slight bit of heat, and it does pack pretty good heat. I would say a good habanero sauce that this would compare to. Now, on a heat scale of 1 to 5, this would rate somewhere around a 3, maybe 3.5. So if you're looking for a sauce without a whole lot of heat, this may not do good for you. But if you're Chilehead, can stand the heat, this is not too bad of a hot sauce, and it's tasty enough for me to recommend. And on an overall scale of 1 to 5, I would rate Boneley's Original Gourmet Hot Sauce from Boneley Tadpole 3 out of 5. Now, to find this product online is a bit difficult. You most likely will find the Facebook page, the Twitter page for Boneley Tadpole, and even on the Facebook page, it doesn't have his website URL. Boneley, get this up immediately to your website. Don't miss out on some sales here. But after some hunting, I was able to find his actual website, which is hotandtastyllc.com. And of course, with all the major links mentioned in any of the weekly Firecast episodes, I will put the link in the show notes. So if you want to go purchase, investigate the sauce for yourself, go to that website. And of course, the Facebook and the Twitter pages, those are all secondary. So Boneley, I urge you to make it effortless for potential customers to get to your webpage to buy your product. So anyway, I would recommend the sauce. It's not the greatest thing in the world I've had, but for an all-purpose sauce, for an impromptu wing sauce, it does a fairly good job.
And now, Ken's Fiery World.
All right, here we are with the inaugural edition of Ken's Fiery World with Chilehead, blogger, and reviewer Ken Alexander. So how are you doing, Ken?
I'm doing great, Scott. I appreciate you having me on.
It's no problem. I wanted to get another voice, and I like yours for so many different reasons. But instead of me telling everybody about yourself, why don't you give everyone a little bit about your background?
It'd be great, the quick log cabin version of what turned Ken Alexander into a Chilehead and blogger reviewer. Is it started with a mother who really liked to cook and cooked a lot of spicy food. I grew up in the South, South Carolina, Tennessee, spent a little time around and about, finished high school in San Antonio, went overseas, traveled in Europe when I was in the military, and experienced a lot of different foods and a lot of different cuisines. And my parents had moved to Louisiana, so I came here when I got out of the military, and I tell people that I ate crawfish once, and spicy crawfish at that, and didn't leave the state for 20 years. And if you know anything about Louisiana, it's known for its cuisine, and it's known for its spicy, full-flavored cuisine, and that's kind of where it started. And so I've always liked it. And then in the mid-'90s, I was transferred to New Iberia, Louisiana, and if you know New Iberia, you know it's the home of Tabasco. And actually, a little bit of Tabasco trivia is the label on Tabasco bottles used to actually say New Iberia, Louisiana, before Avery Island got its own zip code. Mm-hmm. So I was looking to decorate an office, and I was in a mall in Lafayette, Louisiana, and I ran across Jennifer Trainer Thomas's very first edition poster of hot sauces. You know, she's got that line of 5 or 6 now posters of hot sauces on a shelf. And I said, oh, this is New Iberia. This is perfect. Well, from there, it came to people asking me in my office how many of those sauces I had tried. So I didn't collect them at the time, but I would try to find some of those sauces that were on that poster and try them out to where I could talk about them. Then you fast forward a couple more years and a couple more corporate transfers in my day job, and I was living in a small town in southern middle Tennessee, and my wife gave me a bottle of Scorned Woman hot sauce. And Scorned Woman was the center sauce on Jennifer's poster. So it had special meaning to me. And then not too long after that, a friend gave me a bottle of what we know now is kind of that first super hot sauce, Dave's Insanity sauce.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, well, where has this been all my life? And I'm not a big fan of extract sauces. Actually, I don't care for the bitterness much, but there was something unique back in 1990 or so, whenever that was, 2000, whenever that was. And when I tried the Dave's, and so from there it was just picking up a bottle of a sauce here or there, yonder, and trying different ones out. And the next super hot I picked up was one of the first Ashley Foods Mad Dog 357. Before they, now they put the little dangly bullet on the bottle of that 357. Back then it was a little revolver in its first early editions, and so I've still got the bottle at the house that's got the revolver on it. That says made with 650,000 Scovilles, and which, prior to the big super hots was a big deal. And at one time, I think that sauce was rated in the top 5 in heat, or 10 in heat at least, based on your scale. And along my walk, I ran into your site on the internet, and I ran into your Scoville scale, which to this day remains kind of the gold standard for Scoville scales for people. There's a hot sauce shop, kind of a sidebar near Baton Rouge, where I'm from, that they had a new manager, and she didn't know much about sauce, and I sent her to your site and the Scoville scale, and she actually had it laminated in a book.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and that was her Bible to help people figure out how hot something was. She would reference, I told her to go to your site, and then when I came back and found it laminated in the book, that was pretty cool, in testimony to you. And so that was kind of the genesis of collecting hot sauce, but even then I wasn't a reviewer and I wasn't a blogger until the New Orleans Hot Sauce Show a couple of years ago. And I was down there for the day, and actually Tracy Carter with Jack's Tailgaters, who I think you interviewed on a recent segment, doing some things with Shane Draper. Tracy, I saw that he had put an ad on Facebook, and I saw the ad and went down to New Orleans and went to the show and just met the greatest people. And it was like my eyes were open. It was kind of one of these ta-da kind of moments when, I'm at K. John's, and I was familiar with K. John's products, but I'd never heard of Heartbreaking Dawns. I'd never heard of Wicked Cactus. I'd never heard of some of the other, great companies that were out there. And I came out and I had, about $150 worth of sauce in 2 big shopping bags in a box. And I'm watching DEF CON's, there it was a frog leg challenge, not a chicken wing challenge in New Orleans. And I met Al Buddha Goldenberg. And he was talking to the guy Craig Henley, who had won the challenge, about being a reviewer and not being the shy type. I went to Buddha and said, and I like hot sauce. And he looked at my big treasure trove of sauces. He says, well, that's pretty obvious. So we started chatting, and I asked him about, what he was looking for in reviewers and if he'd be willing to look at me. I like public speaking and, enjoy talking about the things that I'm passionate about, and hot sauce was one. So I sent Buddha a little introductory video, and the rest is history. I started doing video reviews for I Love It Spicy about 2 weeks after the New Orleans show, and then probably done I think 75 or so reviews for Buddha since that time. And I like to write, and I enjoy writing, and so what better way than to write? So I wrote up a couple of sauces. I think I wrote up one of Tracy Carter's barbecue sauces at Jack's Tailgaters, and another one. And Brian and Marilyn put it on Hot Sauce Daily for me and published it. And Brian said, Ken, you've got a knack for writing. You do a good job with this. Which for me, after getting to know his blog, was a high compliment. I think the world of Brian and Marilyn, and the level of professionalism that they bring to their blog and the site, as well as yourself. And so, I said, well, let me give my hand at a blog of my own. And so It's a Fiery World was born about a year ago. One thing that I've learned since that time is that you've got to be somewhat tech savvy to do a blog well. And so it's kind of kept me from getting as robust a blog as I'd like. And, I'll use this forum to kind of shamelessly say I'm looking for some cheap tech help and getting the blog set up to where it's really kind of got a better polished look and a better masthead about it. And because writing the content's not a problem, but getting it on the internet in a way that's pleasing to people, I find is a little more work than what a lot of people probably realize. So that brings us to today. the short version of Ken's march through time in Chilehead world.
Well, very cool. Looking forward to see what you have in the coming weeks. Do you have anything lined up next week? Any little sneak previews? Anything that's on your mind that you might want to talk about?
I think talk a little bit about, what it takes in reviewing a sauce. A lot of people, there's a lot of different, in the Chilehead community, you've got folks that do the YouTube videos that like the entertainment factor of how hot can I do something, and kind of that, and some of them that bring that kind of that, what's the show, Jackass, to where you kind of push yourself over the top, or stupid human tricks, and they do things that normal people just wouldn't do, and they do it for entertainment value, and it's got its place. And then you've got reviewers that are very serious about just looking at things, and I like to take a good approach at a product and look at the heat factor. I want to look at the flavor. I'm more about flavor than I am about heat. But I have a high heat tolerance, and so I like it. So I want to talk a little bit about, I think in the next segment, Scott, about how I approach a review, what I do to prep for a review, how I use a product that somebody has sent me. People spend money when they send you products, and especially if they send you products at no charge and they put out for shipping and things. And not that they're wanting just a blanket stamp review, and I'm kind of giving away a little bit, but they want somebody that's going to take their time, and they want somebody that's going to give an honest evaluation of a product and give meaningful feedback for whoever that is. And so, I've tried to come up with some creative ways to do that, and how I handle sauces and what I do with them in my prep work for reviews.
Very good. Well, again, your website is fieryworld.com. Ken, thank you very much for joining me in this edition. And again, looking forward to seeing what you have for us in the coming weeks.
All right, Scott, I look forward to being a regular contributor on your show. I think the world of you and your blog, and know that it's added great value for the Chilehead community, and those folks that have an interest in all things spicy and barbecuey and smoky. Forward. So to be part of your crew is a real honor for me, and I want to thank you publicly for that.
It's my pleasure.
Sounds great, Scott, and I look forward to it. And we will catch everybody on the next go-around of Ken's Fiery World. And when I say that, remember, ladies and gentlemen, it is a fiery world.
And now, the Fire Talkers interview.
And here is my extended interview with Johnny McLaughlin of Heartbreaking Dawns. All right, joining me on the Skype line is Johnny McLaughlin of Heartbreaking Dawns. How are you doing up there right now?
Doing awesome. What's happening, Scott?
Nothing much here. Blizzard up there getting to you guys?
It wasn't too bad. I mean, we had a pretty, brutal snow for like 2 days. But, I mean, after, when it's all done, I mean, it's not really any more than like snow should be in the area. We just haven't had it in a couple years. So it's a big shock for everybody.
Yeah, here in St. Louis has been really mild this year. We've had a few really big cold spells, but precipitation snow, hasn't gotten to us at all, really.
It really piled up, but it's raining today, and it's going to be pretty warm all week. So, I mean, even with the amount we got, it should be, like, pretty much gone by the weekend.
Oh, that sounds good. I guess it would make for excellent travel weather. Maybe not excellent, but suitable travel weather for you to go to Ohio Market Show.
Absolutely, without a doubt. I'm super psyched. That North Market, I'll tell you, that it's my... it's in my top favorite shows that we do. I mean, first it was the absolute first Chilehead event that we ever did. Like, the North Market was our initial exposure to fiery foods. It was the first time I met Buddha and K-John and John Passow. I mean, and everyone who was there. I guess this will be our 4th year now.
Nice.
That was that was our first exposure to meeting everyone in person, and it was just awesome. And that event will always have a special place for me.
Yeah, you know what? Believe it or not, I've never been to the show. It's just this little festival that kind of popped up, and I thought, that's kind of sounds nice, a nice little quaint get together. I hate to say it like that because events are pretty much what you make it, and it's people who attend there. and it's, going out for dinner afterwards. It's all the fun surrounding it. But you know what? I thought, I'm not going to miss it this year. At the expense of a big show like Zest Fest, I decided just to go ahead and make the jump and attend this.
Yeah.
And it sounds like so many cool people are going to be there, not just vendor-wise, but Chilehead-wise. So it's going to be a great gathering this year. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it is an intimate event. And I mean, that's a big part of why it was so awesome for the first event that we did, is because, the room is so intimate. And I mean, it gets super jammed packed with, with enthusiasts and people. But because you're in a room where you're within, a yell's distance from the other vendor, I mean, it gave us an opportunity to really get to know everyone, aside from like an event where you're just stuck at your booth and it's like, oh yeah, there's all these great people here I've never met before, and I didn't get a chance to talk to any of them because we were there. It's much more intimate, laid back, and the people of Ohio, enthusiast-wise, they're into what we're all doing. I mean, the crowd is just awesome. Everyone's there to try what's new, try what they love. I mean, we've built a really nice web-based following from people that we've met in Ohio, outside of the community, just enthusiasts that have picked on and supported our product and look forward to us coming back. I mean, we've met so many cool people, and I love Columbus all around. I mean, you'll see North Market is just a cool place even outside of the event. It's just one of those classic, historical buildings that's got the meat guy and the cheese guy and the spice guy, and it's just that element is just awesome in its own right.
Very cool. And I love it when these types of events have little things like that going on with it, when the venue itself is a bit of a draw. It's not just some big convention center,
Oh yeah, without a doubt. It's cool.
Now, are you going to be doing anything, a contest or anything this year at the North Market Festival?
Yeah, we do the Scorned Bread Challenge with Buddha at I Love It Spicy. That started the second year. It was right on the heels that second year we went out and we did when we did the brownie contest at Weekend of Fire at Jungle Gyms, and we were thinking about doing something similar at the North Market, and we went with a cornbread, a super fiery cornbread. So this will be the third year that we're doing that. And every year it gets more fun and more interesting. And I mean, teaming up with Buddha on something like this, he's got so many crazy ideas of what we could add to it and what we could do different this year and to spice it up. It definitely it's going to be a good one.
Well, me, when it comes to spicy food contests, I cannot do them simply because I can't really eat fast. Not so much to heat, but it's just trying to scarf that down. And I can imagine cornbread, too. That would really fill you up and almost get your mouth and throat dry.
Last year, we did like an extreme heat butter to go along with it, and that's even the concept of the brownie contest in the icing, is trying to do something that's going to make it a little more smoother and chewable and help you get it down, because these, both of those contests are, and even in New York, we're going to do a cookie contest, but all of them that revolve around the fiery baked goods that we do. I mean, aside from the heat, they're all 4 ounces a piece. So 3 rounds of those. I mean, it's speed, it's super quantity, and it's heat. I know I couldn't down, 12 ounces of baked goods in I think altogether like a 3-4 minute window. Aside from the heat, the quantity's got to be brutal.
Of course, just as a meal, that sounds so good. Some spicy cornbread, some really spicy butter with some ham and beans.
Oh yeah,
I would love that.
Yeah, the cornbread itself, I mean, is dynamite. I mean, it's got a bold heat. It's hot. Straight up, it's hot on its own. Like with some nice regular butter to kind of balance out the heat. They're dynamite. But then we top it off. A spoonful. This year we'll probably use the strawberry Scorpion Trail preserves, but we'll mix 3 jars of Malve Sang in it to really set it off or something.
Wow.
Something. Otherwise, it just tastes too good.
Well, spicy foods, they do taste good, and you with Heartbreaking Dawn certainly makes them that way. For everyone who's listening to this podcast interview, I want to go back to your beginnings. Now, I had interviewed you and even Chad Locock, it was probably a year or two ago, and that was on another laptop, and the computer died, and I was unable to retrieve those. And it broke my heart, because both of them turned out to be really good interviews with you guys, but separate, of course. So I thought, well, I have to get Johnny on the podcast here and just talk to him about the whole history of Heartbreaking Dawns. So at the very beginning, how did you initially start? What is your culinary background? And I know you were an artist, and you kind of had worked in your whole approach to cooking with that. So why don't you go ahead and explain to everybody how that all began with you?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I don't have a formal culinary background. Everything that I do cooking wise is self-taught, and just one of those things. If you're passionate about something, you learn about it, and that's my background. Before this, I was in exactly that, in the visual arts, and self-employed as a painter and doing gallery shows. And my background in the educational area was in literature and Near Eastern language and culture. So and work-wise, right out of high school, I was in the tattoo industry for what seemed like forever. At the time, granted, a self-employed artist, as wonderful as that sounds, you really have tons of time on your hand. That's self-employed artist that's an exciting way of saying, I'm not really doing anything right now. And I've always loved cooking. I've always loved adventurous eating. And I've always loved fiery foods, especially, my first introduction to hot sauce was in St. Augustine, Florida, which is funny that we manufacture there now, because as a kid, I was always going down to Jacksonville to stay with my grandparents for a couple weeks in the summer, and I was obsessed with St. Augustine. I don't know what, go to the Ripley's Museum and the Fountain of Youth, and they always had the daddle pepper sauces. Even when I was a young kid, that was my first real exposure to it. So I was to take it back to when we first started. I was gardening, and I didn't want to grow anything but hot peppers. I have no idea why. I had no idea there was a fiery foods world. I didn't even know the extent of sauces out there. I just loved growing hot peppers. We'd make sauces out of them. Anything that we were cooking, Nicole and I would get creative and just make sauces. And it really started like a lot of people I think can identify with, is we bottle up the sauces and we put labels on them to make them look like a real product, for the fun of it, to give it to friends. Like, look, we made this hot sauce, and put it in this woozy bottle and slap the label. It looks real. It looks like it should be on a shelf. Try it out. Mm-hmm. And we just kept doing that. And the more we would make, the more we'd put into bottles. And it was just kind of a little obsession. And not long after that, someone was like, "Oh, you guys should take all those sauces you make to this little festival they have in town." And we had no idea what we were doing, but we had these recipes. Originally at that event, there was probably like 12 different sauces that we were making. I wish I actually had some of the recipes, and I was sold. That was it. The interaction with the people, the creative process, the response. Nicole and I just looked at each other like, we got to start a hot sauce company. So that was, for the next year, we took, there was 3 recipes within that group. It was the jalapeno pineapple, the classic gold, and the mango. And we just got down to business, refining them. And during that time, researching, okay, how do you start a food business? What do you have to do? And, at the time, we got tons of direction from the people on the hotpepper.com, local research. We were in the Hudson Valley at the time. And the support of local small batch products up there and the direction from the business development centers were just, priceless. We worked on that over the course of the year. October of 2009, we were registered as a legitimate business, did our first commercial production of those 3 sauces. And that was it. Heartbreaking Dawns was born. For me, touching back on that, that art element, and I try not to get too caught up to come across like, oh yes, it's, the art of cooking. And yeah, that's all true. There genuinely is a part of it for me where, going from a visual arts background, and everything else I've been passionate about, the literature aspect, the tattoo aspect, here with what we're doing now, I'm able to work with taste, with color, with a visual, with smell. I mean, it's every part of the senses. I'm able to incorporate everything, I've ever been passionate about, from the labels that are hand painted by tattoo artists we've known, from the, obscure names that have a literary influence, to the visual and taste product. And so it's such a creative journey that surpasses the reward of anything I've worked on prior to. And what truly sets it apart is the interaction with people. I mean, the minute someone tries what we worked so hard on, right away there's an immediate bond and such an honest transaction of, wow, how did this make you feel? It surpasses the visual arts 1,000 times in the journey and the reward.
Mm-hmm. Now, those first products that you created, was it the original 3, the classic gold, the jalapeno pineapple, and the mango habanero?
Yeah, those were our first 3 products. That's what we launched as a business.
Now, how long did it take you to really develop those recipes till you found the final form that you bottled and debuted back then?
It wasn't too long. We had the initial recipe on paper from when we first started, and, we just keep making it. And, every time there might be a little tweak here and there. And once it was set, it was good to go. I don't stylistically, I'm not sitting down with a recipe and going back and doing, well, it needs a pinch more of this and a pinch more of that. And my first approach is free form. And, once I think we were kind of fortunate because I had no idea what anyone was doing in the hot sauce world. We had no frame of reference. Mm-hmm. So when some of our products, especially some of our, the specialty super hot line, I mean, those were recipes that were a part of that early stage, except different peppers, those concepts. I think because we had no idea and because we weren't trying to replicate sauces that we were already familiar with, it kind of gave, something new stylistically to what we're doing. I'm not an extreme perfectionist when it comes to, I'm not going to sit down and spend 6 months on a recipe doing, measuring out micrograms of garlic powder. I have my concept, I have my landscape, I go at it, and that's it. We're ready to go.
Yeah. Since then, it's been, I guess, coming up on 3-4 years now. Now, with Heartbreaking Dawns, you have an extensive product line. But back then, of course, you had the original 3. Did you have any particular vision for the company to have, for instance, a line of pepper jellies, seasonings, more like a line of super hot sauces? Or did you just kind of develop things as you went along and you thought, it'd be nice to come up with this or that? How did all that develop?
Yes, there's an ever-changing business plan for us. But the direction we took is nowhere indicative of how we started. We've been, I kind of, believe in sort of putting pen to paper and getting something started and then just letting life kind of guide it on its own. And that's how it happened with a lot of our products. I mean, the pepper jellies, for example, the fiery trail preserves, those happened when we had only our 3 sauces. We're getting ready to do a pickle festival in upstate New York, and we really wanted to enter something. We're like, well, we don't make pickles. What are we going to enter? And chutney was one of the categories. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I have some ideas for a cool spicy chutney. Let's make one. We made a small batch, and we had them up there, and sure enough, we won first place chutney at the event. And so I was like, oh, this, that was our the first thing we won. And so we brought those out to the First North Market. And I think that was the original Fiery Trail Preserves, which that wasn't what they were called at the time. That was the product that gave us something that set us apart from what everyone else was doing. I mean, the original 3 hot sauces, great sauces. I love them. I believe in them. But when you put them on the shelf amongst 16,000 other awesome hot sauces, they're just three other good hot sauces. The fiery trail preserves within the the community was the first product that really set us apart. Like, wow, this is something different. This is something cool. And, that spilled over to three. We like doing stuff in threes. And so that became three products. And then, I guess the original 1498 was, that was I think a huge milestone for us as far as exposure to a wider audience, and kind of, I think that the original 1498 really helped make a name for ourselves in the community.
Well, certainly, because that, I don't remember what year it was. Was it 2010, 2011?
Yeah.
I named that my sauce of the year. I mean, it was just absolutely phenomenal. It's interesting that you said, you develop things in threes. I mean, just about everything that you've come up with, I think, has been above average or even better. But I consider your super hots to be your crowning achievement still.
Thank you.
Why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about those?
We wanted to do something with more exposure to the super hot peppers and the community, and we knew there were areas that we needed to get to. You have to have a ghost pepper sauce. The chocolate habanero was that was actually, again, those three recipes were from early stuff I was working on. Well, I guess the first, I'll go in order, the first being the 1498. That core recipe actually came from a time when we only had the three sauces. People were constantly coming to our booth and going, what's the hottest thing you have? What's the hottest thing you have? And we were like, we need to make something. We were getting ready to do a rib festival. We said, we need to do a small batch of just something brutal. And, I had an idea in my head. We were looking, you were like, we're not going to let's just use stuff we have. It's apricot, blueberry, and carrot. It's going to work. Let's play this together. And then we just dumped like huge bag of fatales and a huge bottle of extract in it, just to make it, to have something that was brutally hot and still had a texture. Initially those ingredients were created for texture and color. And that whole time I was like, man, I kept trying it. I'm like, there's something about this background that we nailed something. So, several months later, we were at Bowers and Buddha, Johnny, I'm the Trinidad Scorpion. I'm telling you, it's going to be the new hottest pepper. You got to eat one on video for me. I'm going to pick them all while they're here. You guys got to make a sauce with this. I mean, we owe a lot to Buddha in our, in guiding us and exposing us with some awesome ideas. And I remember that night, and that video's out there, that we were in the hotel room and I ate that Trinidad Scorpion, and the floral bouquet just burst in my mouth. And I was like, I have the recipe that we're going to do with this sauce. And it was that apricot, blueberry, and carrot background. I mean, that year we bought every scorpion we could from James Weber down at Bowers. Anyone who had them, we were buying them.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to launch that sauce on January 1st. The idea was, here's an opportunity to do something very new that a lot of other companies weren't going to be able to anticipate until the end of the following growing season. So we got enough scorpions, and a big part of that, the blending with the Scotch bonnet and the original was so we could, we had a limited quantity of scorpions, and we wanted to do something that used predominantly that pepper, but we also needed to make sure we could produce the sauce for 10 months, but that led, Scotch bonnet's my favorite pepper. I knew it was going to complement well with the floral tones of the scorpion. Sure enough, we launched that on January 1st of, I guess that was, I don't know if it was 2011 or 2011, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was.
And
you had sent me a prototype.
That's right.
So okay.
So later, a few months later, it was Guinness recognized the pepper. We were the only people in the country producing one at a full scale commercial level. So by the time the fall came around, we knew everyone else would be putting out scorpion sauces. So that was we'll bring out the cauterizer, and that'll be everyone loves the flavor of the original. We'll do something that's a little bit hotter with 100% scorpion, and that'll be our response to the other scorpion sauces that are going to flood the market. The ghost pepper sauce came after that.
That's the 1841.
Yes, the 1841 ghost pepper sauce. Again, trying to, the fruit-based backgrounds are something that's big for me stylistically. I try to use fruits that are going to bring a good texture to the sauce and also complement the, in that I'm looking for those, the bright citrus notes of the ghost pepper, and I want that pear and apple blend to kind of play off of that in the same way that the apricot blueberry carrot does in the 1498. These sauces, the whole line was targeted to do something that's more about the pepper that's within the sauce and then accent those flavors in a unique way to create something that's usable. I want all of our recipes, I want people to be thinking about them as an ingredient just as easily as they would look at them as a condiment. So I want them to be incorporated into your own sauces or into a marinade. And, by using these unique landscapes for the pepper to be featured on, it makes it really more accessible to get creative with the product. And the chocolate habanero is the last in that series. The garlic cumin was just I'll get hung up on flavor combinations, and lately it's been the apricot cardamom, but the garlic cumin was just a flavor combination I was really hung up on, and I wanted to have something in the line that wasn't, I didn't want to do everything fruit based, but I'm still drawn to that, regardless. And the chocolate, we had a couple of our distributors were looking for chocolate habanero sauces specifically, because I guess there was, before we really came on the scene, I guess there was a lot of chocolate habanero sauces out there, and a lot of them were discontinued because of a blight on the crop. So there was kind of a lack of chocolate habanero sauces for a little bit, and that was the pairing up the chocolate habanero, which to me has a very dark, mellow flavor versus some of the other habaneros. I mean, when you're going with that garlic cumin background, it just seemed like the ideal pepper. So we could do a product like that and then also fulfill the demand of some of our distributors that were specifically looking for a great chocolate habanero sauce.
Like I said, I think they're just top-notch stuff, 4.5, 5-star products. You really outdid yourself, and I don't want to just keep on, giving you praise. We'll talk about other products here too, but yeah, all three of those. I guess still to this day, it's hard to remember exactly the years that you put in the titles of the sauces.
We're going to be doing a very mild, not a redesign, but we're going a little bit larger in our label size and trying to incorporate some of the elements that we need to update on the labels. And we're always going to keep the date, but we are going to be a little more descriptive about the subtext. So, sometime this year you'll start seeing, 1841, pear apple jalokia sauce. So I think they'll get a little more identifiable, especially with the chocolate habanero. When people who are outside of the hot sauce store, people see that on the shelf and they say, "Oh, it's got chocolate in it. I'm not looking for that." So rebranding that into, a Southwestern style sauce that kind of focuses more on the backdrop and not as much on the chocolate. Because if I'm not there to tell them what it's all about, they're going to pass it over.
What I do is I just tell people, hey, go look for their Trinidad scorpion sauce. Go look for their ghost pepper sauce. Look for their chocolate habanero sauce. Yeah. They can usually find it that way without having to remember the numbers.
Yes, without a doubt. Because those are the only, that's our only ghost pepper sauce. That's the only chocolate habanero, yeah. So it works.
We'll be back with the second half of this interview with Johnny McLaughlin of Heartbreaking Dawns right after this commercial break. So stick around.
Hi, it's Vic Porcelli. Don't miss our interview with Michael the Grinder Mizrachi in our most recent episode of Two Guys Talking Poker.com.
Are you following the following podcast? There's never been a mission more critical. Join the Two Guys Talking following now by accessing thefollowingpodcast.com and become one of the following today. Followingpodcast.com. thefollowingpodcast.com.
Having a friendly, relatable voice can make all the difference in your marketing efforts. Let Scott Roberts' voiceover be that voice. I can give you the goods, whatever your need is, whether it be for commercials, podcasts, voicemail phone systems and on-hold messages, business presentations, websites, audiobooks, and more. If you require a personable, real, down-to-earth voiceover artist, then look no further. You can find out more at scottrobertsvoice.com.
Two Guys Talking is proud to announce a new program on the Two Guys Talking podcast network, Conspiracy Agents, hosted by Kevin Hawthorne, which will provide outstanding conspiracy and mystery-based content to the Two Guys Talking network. Check it all out now at conspiracyagents.com as another new year of captured perspective here at Two Guys Talking begins. Conspiracy Agents, hosted by Kevin Hawthorne. Conspiracy Agents. That's conspiracyagents.com.
Do you consider yourself to be a Chilehead and want to find some hot new gear to wear?
Oh yeah!
Look no further than Chileheadtees.com. If you're a heat freak and love hot sauce, chili peppers, or anything dealing with fiery and spicy foods, this is the place to get t-shirts to show off your obsession. Chilehead Tees is dedicated to giving you the hottest t-shirts, mouse pads, mugs, aprons, and more for the discriminating Chilehead. Go to Chileheadtees.com. That's CHILEHEADSTEES.com.
And now here's the second half of my chat with Johnny McLaughlin of Heartbreaking Dawns. And you certainly have other products as well. You have it's a pair of grilling sauces, the Meridian and the North Star. I'm sorry, I should have the notes in front of me. How did those two come about?
Conceptually, we want to have a full line of categories. It's great to, if you just want to stick with hot sauces, and we have our line of hot sauces. We want to have a full spectrum of fiery specialty foods. And, so there's categories we still haven't gotten to yet that could be a part of that. But grilling sauces, fiery chutney preserve, dry rubs, these are all things that open up our categories as a company. Grilling sauces were something that we were already kind of working with. When we were early on, when we were demoing the original three, it was like, well, here's a great way to convert our classic gold into a barbecue sauce for this dish or for that dish. And it just seemed like the obvious choice to work on some grilling sauces, still being Hudson Valley based at the time, doing something that was an all-natural grilling sauce that we could use some other sweeteners aside from corn syrup was important. And that goes back to, my love of using fruit bases and preserves as a sweetener, thickener, and landscape. So that's how we started working on those. We sat down. That was a legitimate one. To me, barbecue sauces and grilling sauces are difficult recipe-wise. When we developed those, I had my style down for hot sauce. Mm-hmm. And I go back to a lot of the frameworks for new ones, but grilling sauces were totally new. We were in there. We must have had, 25 jars of ideas from maple chipotle grilling sauces and ones that were using, pineapple and papaya, you name it. They were on the table. My love of daddle peppers played a big role in the North Star. Honey as the sweetener and thickener. The other one, I love Serrano flavor. There's not enough Serrano stuff out there, in my opinion. And again, we go back to the apricot preserves, which are one of my favorite ingredients for texture, sweetness, background flavor. And those two, that's how those two kind of came together. Is that similar idea of using a base for sweetness and texture. Which pepper do we want to focus, and let's do that in a all-natural tomato-based sauce. And that's where those two are from.
And then it was, I believe, about a year or so ago, you had released your Belle River brand of sauces.
Yes.
Of course, they're more aimed at the commercial markets. What was the inspiration behind doing those?
We want to have products, as we grow, We want to be able to have a full line that we can offer to the everyday store and to restaurants at the price point that they're looking for, that have the same integrity of the Heartbreaking Dawn's line, but don't take away from the gourmet element of our main products. And the answer to that is, well, you do a different line, do a different label, and that gets into like the business and marketing end. If our products they're at a price for a reason, because of ingredients, because of unique peppers. And when someone sees those products, and let's a Chef Central, which is a local store here that carries our products, if they go down the road to their Stop and Shop and see those same products at a fraction of the price, it takes away the specialty element of what we're doing. Yeah. So the Belle River line was the answer to that. Let's do something that's not as straight up jalapeno sauce, straight up chipotle, straight up Caribbean hot pepper. There's no crazy backgrounds to it. They're good, solid table sauces, and we're able to have that to offer to places, especially restaurants. You'll note the Belle River line are not all natural, in the sense that we do use stabilizers in them. And some of that has to do with knowing that, we can offer them to restaurants who might be leaving them out with the caps off and people dipping them and stuff, with the hopes that might add to the longevity of it for restaurant use, and also the price. Mm-hmm. We deal with some restaurants as it is with the Heartbreaking Dawn's line, places that want it, but your everyday place, is going to be sitting there. He's going to freak out if you're pouring 3/4 of a bottle of cauterizer on your burrito. It's be like, oh my God, but if we have a line that's comparable to just your basic table sauce, that's about, we don't want to lose those customers. We want to have something for everybody, but still maintain the integrity of what we're really passionate about.
Just real quickly, where does the name Belle River come from?
That I don't have a great answer for you. I have no idea. I was just like tossing stuff around. I didn't rip it off from Steve Seabury. And I hope he hears that. Yeah, no, it was just we're like, we like the Belle, the Memphis Belle. We like the Belle something. Belle River just had a nice ring to it.
Yeah, it sounds good enough.
We had like 2 others that were in the running, and that was the one that was like, that's cool. I like so I love those the look of those 3 sauces. That's the aside from the contents, which I love all the sauces. When I look at what we did label wise and color wise, and when I see those 3 together, which is a big part of doing the 3s, is I don't like going in and seeing someone they got 6 sauces on the shelf and every one of them's red, but everyone's different and all the labels are, it's for me, it's hard to distinguish in your marketing end. So that's a part of those 3s that are very, bold, different in color and label. But the Belle River appearance, I absolutely love how those look as a set. They kind of have like a gourmet soap appearance to them, like those like small batch all natural soap bars with the pastels and I love the look of them. So
now that you mention it, I'll probably think of that every time I take a look at the bottle.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's to me it's super cool.
We can go through so many of your products. One thing I wanted to touch on is, what was the story about resurrecting the Pitbull hot sauces? Now, that's something I tried years ago. It just one of those sauces that's in the back of your mind. You think, did they go out of business? And then you broke word of it about a year or 2 ago that you were developing it and putting it back out. So how did that happen?
It was cool. We were it was for Bruce at Pepperhead. So you met him down at Peppers at the Beach, if I remember. Mm-hmm. We did demoed out. We talk. He'd get some stuff from us, and we'd go out there and demo sometimes. And he'd always be asking. He'd be like, "Johnny, this Pitbull. People are always asking me for Pitbull." And he put it in my head. He was like, you guys should contact them and see if you can't bring it back. He was like, if you can make it, I'll distribute it. I have the customers that want that sauce. If you could bring it back, I mean, I'm in. So I thought about it for a bit, and I was like, this sounds like something fun. Let's find a sauce that people remember and bring it back. And so that was it. I looked up those guys, and I called them, and they just making hot sauce was a hobby for them. It was a pastime, and they did it, and life got busy with things like kids and real jobs and, things that a lot of people, have when they're trying to do something. And it just, they let it lapse. They didn't have the time to do it anymore. But in that time they were around, they had built a huge following, especially on Long Island and in New York City. People wanted the sauce. So I was able to work something out with them where we could re-release it, as manufactured by Heartbreaking Dawns. It's the original recipe, the original label art. We literally changed nothing, and we put it back out. And that's it. It's available.
It's a very nice sauce, just an all-around great flavor profile. And yeah, I mean, it's reached as far as, Missouri, as far as hot sauce stores.
Oh, yeah.
So it's available in a lot of places. I could probably talk to you about your seasonings and everything else. Another thing I wanted to touch on is your 1776 Beverage Company.
Yeah, that's we fun stuff, man. I'm going to bring a few cases next week to give out to some people. Originally I wanted to do just nothing but ginger ale. So this is the reason we got into that, and this gets into marketing and into the more of the business end. Whereas we have a lot of customers in especially in the Hudson Valley who do great with our products, but they're not the type of places that it's an everyday purchase. Places like delis and markets, where people are going in constantly for sandwiches or drinks or whatever, and they get introduced to our sauce, and they're repeat customers for our sauce. But as the general population isn't sailing through, 9 bottles of hot sauce a week. Mm-hmm. But I still need to service these locations and go up there. And we were just, man, we always wanted to put out sodas. It's so much fun. You could do, who doesn't love a good soda? And I'm obsessed with ginger ale. So originally I wanted to do nothing but ginger ale. But then we saw, there's the Bruce Cost line. I don't know if you're familiar with it. They do all ginger ales. They're very different. They're more of a ingredient driven. They have the ginger pulp floating around, but nevertheless, they're all ginger ales, and they're great products. And then we had the something we were comparing to for inspiration up here were the Gus line of sodas, the grown-up sodas, whereas they do very unique flavor combinations, a little more out there. That's where you're going to see like your pomegranate ginger. And, we decided to go with classic American flavors where we could employ the same type of background flavor twists that we do in the Heartbreaking Dawns line, and then create formulas that are going to bring those to life in something that's very crisp, a low sweetness, pale, dry, they're almost like like a light spritzer of soda, and then do a cane sugar version of those. And that was it. We actually started we did a private label of ginger ale just to put it in some of the stores and see how it would do with getting it up there, distribution, if the labels were piquing the interest of people. And it was going well. So we said, all right, let's develop our flavors. And so we spent about a year working on the formulas for those 3 products. And we put them out and we launched them. Now the first year, those came out last February, and we never really we didn't do a full scale push on them just yet. We're kind of letting them sort of take a life of their own, and we're glad we did, because we have distribution for the Hudson Valley, And we have distribution now in New York City, and so they're getting out there. But then this year we kicked off the year with Imbibe Magazine, which is a beverage industry magazine based in Portland. They stumbled across our cream soda and included that in their awards of top 75 things to drink in 2013.
Nice.
So with some industry credibility and more exposure, I think this year we're really going to work on pushing the sodas much harder than we did. First, we just wanted to get them out there. See, marketing sodas is such a different ball game than anything else we're doing. I mean, it's there's a million drinks out there. You practically have to give it away to get it on the shelves, but we love it, and I think this year we're going to be able to really hit stride with it. And there's some tweaks, there's some tweaks we need to work out. I mean, we tried doing label-wise, for example. We went with every label has a different bicycle to sort of indicate the change of flavors. And, we're going to need to go back on future runs and maybe tint the actual label color so they really stand out more. By doing an all-natural cane sugar, they're very similar in color. And people buy beverages based on color. You get me the blue Gatorade. I drink the Snapple with the green label. No one knows what any of them are called. They just know the colors. So there are some tweaks we need to do for the new year in the soda to really take them to the next level. But flavor-wise, we love them. They're getting out there. They're picking up steam. And I think this is going to be a killer year for 1776.
And right now you have the white peach ginger ale, you have the raspberry birch, and the cream soda, correct?
And the classic cream. And that's we actually just got a prototype for a 6-pack shipper. So we're hoping that within the next few months we'll have them available on the website as well.
Oh, that'd be good.
That was something touchy. We didn't want to. It's hard because they're soda. I don't want them to be expensive to ship.
Yeah.
And I also don't want them to be too fragile to ship. So we needed to have something developed where someone could order a 6-pack that's going to ship safely, ship reasonably priced, and get it out there. Right in the meantime, though, Peppers actually, they ship them. They have them on their website. They've been sending them out for a while right now.
If they really start to take off and you begin to develop new flavors, I have 4 words for you to consider. Spicy cinnamon root beer.
Nice. It sounds dynamite.
Yeah, it's something, I don't know. I thought of a couple years ago. It's like that would be a really great flavor combination.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So I'm going to go ahead and give you the idea. I don't know if it work in the real world, but you can kind of play around with it. And if anybody could make it work, it's you, Johnny.
Thanks, man. Awesome.
Outside of all your many products, and there's a bunch I didn't even bring up, I think one of the probably least talked about, I don't want to even call it a trend, but just kind of ideas in the whole Chilehead world is working with pure capsaicin and adding capsaicin crystals to hot sauces. Mm-hmm. Do you personally see, and it's probably not going to be a bulk of anybody's profit, it's still going to be like a niche item, but do you see that kind of trend taking off at all, at least with your products?
I could tell you it won't happen with our products.
Okay.
With the exception of the limited edition stuff we put out. Because that brings, that sort of immense heat sort of concept is fun to bring into it. It probably actually won't come back because we did that already with the Cardiff Giant one, so we probably won't do it again. I mean, we're working with the crystal, the 16 million crystal capsaicin is great if you're looking for that heat because it's flavorless. And because of the flavorless, odorless element to it, it's really easy to take a great recipe, mm-hmm. throw some of that in an alcohol base and make it brutally hot. For me, that overshadows the concept of the original recipe. Our hottest products are the Season and Health set. And the idea behind that is there's all natural, there's no extract, there's no crystal, and I'm using, again, those background flavors to bring to life the flavor of the pepper combination. Those are probably the hottest products you're ever going to see from us. I know there's the demand for, brutally insane heat, but it's not what we're about. I mean, I want an ingredient driven high heat. When you get to that level of heat, that's where it really starts to take away from the integrity of your recipe. Mm-hmm. And again, that's my opinion. You could put, I know you could mix, 16 million crystal with just about anything and sell it without a doubt. But I don't think those are products that have the great potential for lifelong customers, because they're when you get into the extracts and the 16 million, it's stuff that it's rarely being used as an ingredient. It's being taken out for your brother that says he can handle any heat, and you want to prove to him he can't. And they tend to sit. It's just not the type of products that we really want to put out. Yeah, there will be a trend in it, but I think it's going to be short lived, because I don't think it leaves room for people to reorder the product multiple times. That's with the exception of like a restaurant who may be using it for challenges, or that market's there. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the novelty, brutally hot stuff that's being produced is really for a one-time purchase. And once you exhaust that, then you got to move on to something else.
It's understandable. I've just seen you, Chad from Ray City Sauce Works, Candace, the Wildfire Chili, just come up with some really great tasting sauces with that clean flavor. It's like, whoa, this is what extreme chili heads might have been looking for. But yeah, but plus if it's cost prohibitive, I don't know exactly how much of the capsaicin crystals you would use and how much it would actually cost you to have a sustainable product line like that. Imagine it's quite a bit.
I mean, that's the whole other thing, man, is that, like when I made those blotter hits, and even making the Cardiff Giant, I've played around with it, but that stuff's scary to work with, I mean, it's, as we use Endorphin Farms as a co-packer, and I wouldn't want to, I would never want to email Adam up and be like, hey, you need to get 70 pounds of crystal powder and dump it into this. I mean, to me, it's scary stuff to work with. Yeah, there's a market for it, and we did that. We did make some stuff that does have a killer clean taste, but it's I'd rather try to get those tastes with just the peppers are hot enough now. I mean, these strains that that we have access to, that was unheard of even a few years ago. The people I think using our products don't need anything hotter than what we already have. Aside from the collectible end, who knows what we'll do. That's the fun element, because we can do anything with that. That's where we could play around with. But I mean, for me, the season and hell sets, those are brutally hot for a non-extract product. And anything past that, it does take away from the integrity of the recipe. Not everyone's going to agree with me on that, but and I don't discount the products out there that are doing it, but my stylistic elements that I look for when I'm in the creative process don't go in that direction.
Let's go ahead and segue into asking you, what is your creative process, and what do you and Nicole do like on a typical day?
Typical day. That's a good question. Well, she's been in internship right now, and also is pregnant right now. So as you know, so her, she's been pretty busy with staying at her internship. She's in a master's program for counseling at Seton Hall University, and she's in the final stretch right now. So that's been keeping her really busy. And then by the time she's done, being at the stage of pregnancy she's ready to just kind of hold up and watch TV and rest. My typical day is, we'll get up, make some breakfast. I usually start off with emails, go through emails and return phone calls, and then do whatever orders we need to get out. relax for a bit, get ready for, for whatever we have coming up on the weekend. Most of my work comes down, gets done from like 9 at night to 2 a.m. That's when I'm like doing like work, after she goes to sleep and there's no disruptions. But it's pretty simple. I mean, right now our biggest thing is working on the event season is starting to come up. And also our pit beef pop-up that we have coming up. So it's pretty much just busy with running around and keeping up on orders and keeping up on seeking out new customers in the area. This year we're really trying to focus a lot more on the tri-state area and market ourselves. We have a good product spectrum in the hot sauce world, but we want to really focus on bridging the gap between that and specialty foods. Mm-hmm. Our days are pretty laid back, It's just kind of we both love doing what we're doing. As long as you keep that evident, then it's none of it's really work. We just kind of go with it and just do whatever comes up. And I guess that's it. Craig.
Busy enough, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's it's such a hard question because we don't have a typical day at all. Every day is just so different. We have no idea what we're going to have to do or what we have coming up. We're very, just keep everything within the day. So we just do what needs to be done within the day and, hang out. And, definitely now we're working on sort of restructuring, both of our schedules to revolve around welcoming a child. That's going to be a big thing for both of us, and still incorporating everything we already do.
And when does the little one due?
June 20th.
June 20th. Oh,
it'll
be here before you know it.
Yeah, it's a girl, and she's coming on or about June 20th.
Very good. That's close to my first son's birth date.
Awesome.
If it were a boy, of course, I would suggest that Scott would be a fine name.
We're working on the naming process. It's ever changing.
I totally understand, and it's especially, well, I don't know if I want to go there with women. Yeah, give them a little bit of leeway. Let them have a big say in the decision and make them happy.
Yeah. Oh, I do that with everything. So that's.
Another thing I wanted to ask you, a little over a year ago, you were on Chopped on the Food Network. A lot of that's already been documented. Now go ahead and point people over to the Hot Sauce Weekly podcast where you appeared on there and talked about that. Do you have anything like that coming up in the future? Cooking contests, possible TV appearances, anything like that?
Not right now. I mean, I'm still always looking, so it's always possible. Every now and then I do get contacted by something coming up, and I will welcome any opportunity to do it, but we have, nothing in the works right now coming up. But, with 2013, there is going to be a lot more cooking for Heartbreaking Dawns with our pit beef venture. So there will be a lot more cooking going on, just not televised as of right now.
Why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about the pit beef venture?
Aside from just everything that's such a blast, one of my favorite parts of doing what we do is the cooking, the on-site cooking and the on-site demos and the it's something I love. That's a big part of why we even got into this industry, and a big part of choosing, packaged goods versus, a restaurant at the time was the overhead and the headaches that people deal with it as a restaurant. And I always wanted to look for a way to kind of work in on-site food into Heartbreaking Dawn. So we're doing that this year. There's an event in Brooklyn. It's called Smorgasburg, and it's a straight-up weekly foodie heaven. Mario Batali said it was the Smorgasburg event was the greatest thing to happen in New York City gastronomically in like the past 40 years. Mm-hmm. And we've been a participant in the event all for last year's season as a retailer for our products. But the core of the event is just anybody who's doing something really cool in the Manhattan area right now is there every Saturday and Sunday for people to try out what they're making, and it's essentially a pop-up. And I love the Baltimore pit beef is just something that's killer. A lot of inspiration and direction for this concept came from Firehead Tom Gately, who's he's a pit beef master. And, we were talking, and I spent a while just kind of coming up with my ideal recipe for pit beef. And funny enough, absolutely nobody in New York City does Baltimore style pit beef. Mm-hmm. And to me, the sandwich screams New York. Thin sliced charcoal beef, horseradish sauce, white onion, everything screams it. So, that was something, I could totally have gotten into. And so essentially, beginning April 6th, every Saturday and Sunday, straight through November, we'll have a pop-up location. And we'll be doing my version of an original Baltimore pit beef sandwich. And then we have a sort of a twist spicy version that incorporates melted provolone and fresh Dino's jalapenos sprinkled over it. And, we have actually my seasoning that we developed for the pit beef is actually already available on our website. It's our signature pit seasoning, and that's the same seasoning that I'm using for our rendition. But then we're also going to be releasing our tiger sauce as well over the course of the year. But we'll have our original classic take, the spicy twist, and then the awesome part is every week we're just going to do something that the whatever I want sort of special. So some of the things, every first weekend, people will be able to get our pit beef that's topped with seared foie gras and caramelized onions. One weekend, it'll be a duck rillette topping. One weekend, it'll just be a gigantic Cajun prawn on top. So kind of like here are the staples, and then here's like the over-the-top Heartbreaking Dawn's, way out there topping, just smothered on it. So it's going to be tons of fun. And by doing that too, it's a way to, here's one location every week. I can have a blast cooking whatever we want to do, but it revolves around one consistent theme. But we're promoting Heartbreaking Dawns and incorporating the soda as well, because we're doing on-site food. That bumps up the soda element too. And I'm so psyched for it. It's just going to be really killer to do something like that. And again, it's a way for me to have that creative outlet without having to get involved with a brick and mortar restaurant and the overhead and the headaches that come along with that. That's full time in itself. So I don't want to do something that's going to take away. Our focus will always be marketing Heartbreaking Dawns as a specialty goods packaged product. So this is a way for me to have some fun, do the on-site cooking, and brand something that's totally new to New York City and do our own twist on it. So I'm like, even cooler is the Smorgasburg event is actually in the park directly next door to the location for the New York City Hot Sauce Show. Mm-hmm. So, everyone who's coming out for that, I hope will have a chance to shoot over and grab some of what we're doing. We're definitely going to be doing an insane over-the-top Chilehead special that weekend.
Oh, sounds incredible.
Yeah, it's a blast. You know how much fun we have with all this. The business end aside, I wouldn't trade what we're doing for anything. It's just way too much fun. Everyone's just become awesome friends, and it's just such a great family of people, and you get to just love what you do, and that's what life should be about, man.
It is, and it's an absolutely great industry. I'm very fortunate to be part of it in a very small way. I know we've talked for quite a bit, and I appreciate, you give me your time here. One last thing I want to ask you is, for all the up-and-coming companies that are trying to break into the industry, whether it be a hot sauce or just some type of artisan craft maker, whatever type of product they have, what little tidbits of advice would you give them?
I think the number one thing is just believe in what you're doing, stand beside your products, and be patient. And tell everybody about what you're doing. with enthusiasm and passion. You know, that's the key, man. And especially now, I mean, we're super young, you know, we're by no means been around for the amount of time I think some of the newer people on the scene think we've been around for. We're just as young as a lot of these other guys who are starting off right now. Is patience, you know. I mean, if you just believe in what you're doing and you love it and you share it with everybody, you know, then your fans are there. You know, you just got to find them. I mean, and just, it takes time building a brand and building a product that people are going to get familiar with takes time. Not everyone's going to love what you do, but there's enough people out there to be head over heels for it, to get you through it. You know, and it's just a matter of dedicating the time and the patience to finding those people and enjoying it. I mean, I guess that's the biggest thing, you know. Be a part of the community, be a part of what's going on. I mean, that's a big part of it. Multiple, understanding that it's just as important to get your products out in the Chilehead world as it is to get support at the local level. Just because it's hot sauce doesn't mean the world of hot sauce is our only market, especially now at a time where fiery foods just in general are becoming in such greater demand. Mm-hmm. You know, that's it. You know, believe in your products and be patient and be open to talk about stuff and have fun with people. I mean, you can have attitude's a big part of it. You could have an awesome product and a horrible attitude, and it's going to take away from the taste, you know. But you could have a decent product and an awesome attitude, and it's gonna, so attitude's everything. You know, have fun.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I guess that's some of the main stuff. You know, be different. You know, try to go with your gut. You know, go with the idea you believe in versus trying to replicate something or do something that you think might be sellable, you know?
Very good advice, especially the whole attitude thing. Because I've known some people who've had spectacular products, but they've just been so reluctant to be part of the community. They've been grouchy. They've been egotistical. It's like, oh, I don't want to touch that part of marketing. And that vibe really rubs off on the hot sauce fans in a bad way. And then the flip side of the coin is there's a lot of people who make kind of average products, but they're just some of the nicest, most generous, giving people out there, and I love to be around them. And it made me see their products in a whole new light. I may not think of them as having 5-star products, but they are some of my favorite people in the industry. Yeah. And so that has a lot to do with it. So it's like embrace this community.
It definitely does. And even sticking with stuff, you know, I mean, we've seen it not just in hot sauce, you know, but we see it at, you know, events where, you know, that may not be as stellar in sales as others. But, you know, you got to remember that it only takes, you know, if you reached out to one person who's never going to forget what you're doing, then it's worth being there. You know, that's the key, you know. It's I think that's, you know, and I don't know enough about what everybody's doing, but a big part for us is long-term thinking. It's outside of the day, you know. Not every day or every event has to be over the top stellar monetarily to be rewarding in the long-term spectrum of you branding your product.
Very well put. I want to thank you. As always, you're one of the coolest, one of my favorite guys in the whole industry. It's always a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you guys this weekend.
Me too, man. I can't. When are you getting to town this weekend?
Probably Friday afternoon. I think we're going to leave Friday morning, and it takes 8 hours to drive from St. Louis to Columbus. Both Kevin and I will be there.
Awesome.
The budding Chilehead. He didn't want to miss this one.
Give me a call when you get there. I should be there pretty early and have already set up over at North Market by the time you guys roll into town.
Okay, we'll do, buddy.
Awesome, Scott.
Well, thanks again, and you have a good week.
Hey, thank you.
Okay, talk to you later.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
That was a lot of fun. Johnny is definitely one of my favorite people in the culinary world. So if you've never tried Heartbreaking Dawn's products before, what are you waiting for?
go to heartbreakingdawns.com, simply order some. Of course, Heartbreaking Dawns is a lot more than those hot sauces. Just take a look around the website for yourself. And the blog that's hosted by Heartbreaking Dawns is cookingupthehits.com. That, just like heartbreakingdawns.com, I will put the link in the show notes for everybody to take a look at. And again, the review product this week, Boneley's Original Gourmet Hot Sauce, could be found at hotandtastyllc.com. You can click that link in the show notes. Ken Alexander's website can be found at fieryworld.com. And before I sign out of this episode, I'm going to go ahead and present the shares on Facebook and the retweets on Twitter. And starting with Twitter, the people who shared a link to the last episode of the Weekly Firecast, episode 26, was Dave DeWitt, who I happened to interview. His Twitter handle is @FieryFoods. There's Dr. Barbecue Ray Lampy. His Twitter handle is @DRBBQ. There's Midwest Chileheads. His Twitter handle is JKNOL, the numeral 4. There's Dan's Rolling BBQ. And that Twitter handle is @Dan's Rolling BBQ. There's Sean Mundell. His Twitter handle is @TGuzzler. And then sharing the link on Facebook was Mike Eisenberg of Wicked Cactus Sauce. Thank you very much, Mike. There was, of course, Dave DeWitt. Thank you, Dave. And then there was BBQ Hooks and more. Thank you very much, everybody. And if you're interested in being mentioned on the podcast, simply retweet the link whenever there's a new episode of the Weekly Firecast or share the link on Facebook. Very, very simple. And of course, to find those links, you can like my Facebook page at facebook.com/ScottRobertsWeb. You can follow me at twitter.com/ScottRoberts. And those links as well will be shared in the show notes. And my main website, as always, can be found at ScottRobertsWeb.com. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put the bookend on this gargantuan length episode. So until next time, everybody, God bless, and remember, keep it burning.
This has been the Weekly Firecast. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast via iTunes or at the official website at scottrobertsweb.com/weeklyfirecast. The Weekly Firecast is part of the Two Guys Talking podcast network. For more information on other great Two Guys Talking programming, you can go to twoguystalking.com. That's the number 2, guystalking.com. Thanks for listening. And remember, keep it burning.